Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is a tea that is not one of my favorites. It's a sleepy time, which I like, but it's the sinus soother. I've had it a couple times when I've done, uh, you know, videos on this channel. And honestly, it's really just for my health. So that's just to kind of apologize in advance that I might still be sniffly. What can I do? See, there it is. It's lovely. But I wanted to keep going because I wanted to talk a little bit about my bookish reading, etc. goals for the year 2023, as this is the time to be considering it, I guess. And I don't think, as far as the channel goes, I mean, I've been a little lax in the past few months about, making a lot of content because I've just been tired, sick, etc., just not up to it, or, not reading as much maybe, so didn't feel like I had a lot to talk about. But I am still reading quite a lot, and I still do have a lot of things I do want to talk about. So I'm gonna keep trying to do a little of the same, but maybe a little more. We can hope. So we'll see. We'll see how the year progresses. But I'm not stressing it. That's the main thing. Stress isn't good for anybody, and we'll see how that goes. I still would like to get a little more technical so I could do things like, vlogging and stuff. But I'm so, I don't know if you can call it laziness or what, because I could have done a lot this year and didn't. But we'll see. So instead of going on and on about the things I can't do, let's talk about some of the things that I can do. And one of them is to buy fewer books in the year of 2023. I didn't calculate how many books I purchased this year, and I don't know. I'm not really counting digital books right now, although that does count, but I'm not counting it for myself right now. Only because it's just a little, that's just a little much. I'm thinking more in terms of, because most digital books that I have purchased, or yeah, purchased over this past year, most of which I have read, has been pretty cheap, like $1, $2, whatever. And because that's really usually the only way I'll buy something digitally, because I don't really prefer to read things that way. I'm just, I've tried audiobooks and it's just not taking for me yet. And so, although I have read more this year, I think, on ebooks than I had since, I think, 2012, when I bought my first e-reader. It's still not my preferred method of reading. However, even that, I don't want to overdo the accumulation of digital materials, because, what's the point? But also, I have a lot of physical books. I think you guys know, if you've watched this channel more than once or twice, you've probably seen hauls, and I've probably purchased more in one haul than most people buy of books in a year or more. And this is not a putting myself down or bragging. This is just a statement. I do like having a lot of books. You can see in the background, I have a lot of books, and this is just a small portion of the books that I have, which is great. It's fun. But I was also watching a video I'd made of my cats like about 5 years ago, and I saw how my apartment looked back then, and it's always been full of books and stuff, but it looked a lot emptier somehow, and I felt like, all right, maybe I should really just balance things out, just chill a little bit with my shopping, which doesn't mean that I'm going to stop going to bookshops, because I love book shopping. I live in a city that has a good amount of bookshops. I still plan to make a video where I'm going to talk about certain subjects about relating to bookshops, but not today, I don't think. But the problem is that I can go to bookshops. I occasionally, especially when I go to ones that are full price bookshops, independents or whatever, even Barnes and Noble, I can usually go, and if I do buy a book, I buy a book, and that'll be it. It's so rare that I'll buy more than one book because they're pricey, so it does give me a sense of self-control. But if I go to a used bookstore, I mean, oh, this is only $1. This is only $3. Oh, this is $5, but worth it. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes the books that I buy are really books that I really wanted, but sometimes I buy things just because they are something I semi want, but it's cheap. So I buy it. And that's lovely until you start running out of space. So, and I know, like I said, if I actually was able to count how many books I've purchased, this is what I started saying before. If I actually started counting the books that I brought home this year, sometimes it was from buying. Most of it was books that I bought, and some of the books were books that I found in little free libraries and places like that. That is probably not the majority, but it's still part of it. Um, I think it would be more in number than the volumes of books that I read this year. And I know this was a low reading year compared to my normal reading years. So I'm in the 60s. That's it, which is not bad. I mean, I know for the average person, that's still very good. But because I was cracking around 80 in the past couple of years, it's a difference. I'm not upset about it, really. I'm not. It's not all about numbers or breaking records and stuff. But the fact that I brought home probably more books than I read seems a bit not right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to balance things out. Not just go to a bookshop just because. Wait for occasions, like when I happen to be in an area where there's a bookshop that I haven't been to or haven't been to in a very long time. Maybe I'll pop in there because, it's fun. When I have someone from out of town who wants to go book shopping with me, or if I'm from out of town visiting somebody or visiting somewhere and want to go book shopping, well, that makes sense. But not just, okay, today is Tuesday, therefore I'm going to a bookshop. You know what I mean? Like, just going, not constantly saying, well, it's been 3 weeks since my last book shopping adventure. Nothing like that. I don't want to make it into like a major, like, oh, I must control myself. Just in a little bit. So I hope that makes sense. I know it's a bit rambly, but I just think that it's good to have these sort of things in mind going into another year. And yes, very much reading the books that I own, because I also I notice that a lot of books I read now are still books that I check out of the library, which is a wonderful resource that I still encourage. And it is a better idea to me when I can find it. My local library is one of the biggest in the world and still doesn't always have the books I'm looking for. But again, like I've said many times, if there's a new book that's coming out, say a historical fiction book that I've been looking forward to reading, and I know it's going to be at the library, and I just have to put it on hold, and I just have to stop in the library, pick it up, and read it, I would rather do that. If it's a book I'm really waiting for, I would rather do that than, buy it brand new just because, and say, well, I want to read the books that I own instead of reading library books. That doesn't make sense. So that's what I mean. I'm going to continue to also go to the library, and I'm going to continue to put things on hold at the library. But I also want to try to have more self-control with that too, because I always have a massive stack of books out from the library. Right now, I think I have at least 15 books out. And I know when I go back to the library, I have a few to return, so that's good. But then I have another one waiting for me. So this is not good. I need to have just fewer books out from the library, less pressure to have to constantly read books that I borrowed, and yet still patronize it because it's a good system. All right, so that's enough on the books itself, the volume of books, etc., and those kind of habits. Now I'm going to talk about something a little more, in my opinion, fun, which is I decided to, I don't know what's going to happen throughout the year. I hate making very definite, these are the books I'm going to read this year, because tastes change. Sometimes my mood changes, so that in the month of like April, whatever I wanted to read in January is just out the window. And sometimes a new booktube event happens, and that could be really fun, and it will move me to read something that I didn't intend to read in 2023, etc. So I don't want to be too hard and fast, but I did think of a sort of theme for myself. It's because I keep thinking about the one massive, big, important reading year in my life. Not but one of the big reading years of my life. And that was 1993. Yes, and that's going to be 30 years ago. I know, I was only 2 years old. I wish. No, but I was a teenager. And this is the year that I was already reading some books that were classics. I was already reading um, books that I would similarly read even now, um, biographies, etc. But 93 is when I really intensely started reading classics and um, and other things. So I'll get into that a little bit. Number one, the first book that I was really reading, and it actually, I blamed it. I don't know if I should have blamed it, but I blamed it on failing an important exam uh, for American history of all things. But that was Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. And so it was a very big, intense book, and I spent just so much time on it, but I really enjoyed it. And so that was a big accomplishment for that year. I don't think I intend to read that book again this year, although I still have the original copy somewhere. Oh, over here. Yeah, I'm not going to lift it out. Anyway, it's, the musical copy that a lot of people have. But yeah, I still have it. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to reread that. But I do have at least one French classic that I started in 2020 and haven't finished yet. And it's rather large, just like this one. Maybe I'll finish that one. So one of the goals I would like to do in theme, keeping with the theme of 93, Catherine's 93, not the whole world's 93, is to read maybe a few more translated classics than I had. I didn't read, I maybe read one or two, maybe this year. So that's not a lot. And yeah, if that much. So I'd like to get back to that a little bit. I haven't read a good French classic that I can remember recently, unless I'm completely forgetting something, which is possible. And yeah, there's a lot of other things that happened to me in 93 that I don't want to remind myself of. It's like the first funeral I went to, things like that. So I'm not gonna like imitate everything that happened that year. Like I don't think I'm gonna read a ton of cat books, despite 93 being the first year my family adopted a cat and I became the cat lady that I am today. If I read a cat mystery, like I used to back then, maybe that would be fun. But it's not. This is not a major drive for me. It's mostly stuff related to classics. One of the things I got into in '93, as I was into it before, but like more independently, like I was doing my own reading up on it and purchasing of the item to learn more about it, is tea. 93 is the year I started buying my own teas. And loose teas and learning how to make teas the proper way. Although I didn't really get good at that until a few years later, but I started to want to read about tea and probably started to read books about tea in 93. Which means that I could go back to my tea library, which I've been talking about a lot lately, and either reread some of the books that I have there or actually read some of the ones that I have that I haven't read yet, because I feel like I haven't been doing enough of that lately and I don't want to forget the things I've learned, and I just love tea and everything about it. So now that I can sort of taste tea again, I had lost that for a few days when I had the, intense COVID moment. That was not fun. And though I don't think it's 100% back, I do think it's improving. So we'll work along with that. But I can also drink herbal teas too, because that's also enjoyable. So yeah. Okay, and then probably there's a lot of books that I read in 93 that were 19th century classics, whether they were translated or not. I know I read at least one or two George Eliot's. I think I read Henry James, Nathaniel Hawthorne. I don't think of Bronte yet. Thomas Hardy. Some of these I would like to read more of, or again, or reread, whatever, but it's not a main drive for me, although I am going to be reading this one soon, so that would be fun. But the most important, I think, for me, reading event that happened to me, or reading moment, or whatever you want to call it, was in the summer of 93 when I read my first Jane Austen, which was Emma. And so, even though it wasn't the only thing I read that year, obviously, it was probably the most important thing I read because it just spiraled in a good way to one of my favorite ever writers ever. And although Anthony Trollope is a very close second, and I continue to want to read Anthony Trollope, I didn't read him in 93, but that's okay. I'll still read him in 2023 if I can help it. But which, it may be easy to say, well, that's fine, because in July you're going to read a whole bunch of Jane Austen stuff. And that's true. but I don't want to reserve all of my Jane Austen related reading to July, which I pretty much did last year. I mean, I read like one Regency related book early in the year, and I think I read a little bit of the books that spilled into August. But that's not enough, because to me, I want to keep having something going related to Jane Austen. And so I have so many books, not just her actual novels, but like this book that I found in when I was in Chicago, and I was so excited because I always wanted to read something by this writer, if I haven't already, which is Jane Austen: The World of Her Novels by Deirdre LaFay. I hope I'm saying that right. And this is interesting. I love nonfiction. I love reading a little bit behind the scenes of a writer's life or the world of her novels. So there's so much more I could read about her or reread even, and I don't want to, even though I love participating in Jane Austen July, I really do. I just don't want to relegate myself to just that time and that's it, you know? So that's not kind of, but that's definitely what I want to do. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, there's so many other things I want to read about. There's so many books that I own that I really want to get to that have nothing to do with these themes. But I think just sort of sticking to 93 as a slight, marker of things to aim towards isn't a bad idea for me. Even if I read a Bronte, because I don't remember reading 193, but the first Bronte related book I purchased with my first paycheck ever, because it's also the year I first started working. I first had a job and my own money, which I also started to use to save up for London. But even though I'm always going to read books related to probably London and the UK and stuff, my first trip was in 94. So maybe for 2024. No. Anyway, we shall see. So, and then the only other thing I could think of is, of course, there's going to be a lot of writers that have come out with new books that I want to read. There's a few historical fiction writers that I'm looking forward to their new offerings. There's one person who I don't know if he's ever going to write any new books, but there's always been these rumors that have been proven false. But I really hope that maybe the rumors have some truth to them and there will be a new book. But I do know that one of my very favorite writers, besides Jane Austen, besides Anthony Trollope and a few others, Jasper Fforde is supposedly coming out with the sequel to his Shades of Grey book. Yes, not the other Shades of Grey related book. His book. And so I'm excited about that. I think it's coming out in the spring. I could be wrong about that, but I know it's coming out in 2023, and I probably will end up buying that one. But he hasn't come out with a new book, at least I think he came out with a children's book recently, but that I wanted to read in a while, since I think 2020, and this I might have to reread the first book so I can remember what I'm reading, and I also do want to reread. I've been reading every January, I think, Jasper Fforde. Is that what I did? I don't know. Excuse me. Is that what I did? I don't know, but I know last January I read a book by Jasper Fforde in the Thursday Next series, a reread. So I might do another reread there too. I don't know. So yes, I will also reread and I will enjoy it. So that is the basic idea of what I want to do next year. And of course that might change by like May. There may be a completely different direction that I will go in. But this is something, these are the ideas I have. So let me know in the comments if you have any ideas, if you have any thoughts on these little goals, and if you've had any struggles yourself with, buying books or buying too many books, or not reading as many books as you thought you were going to read. All the kind of thoughts. Let me know down below if you'd like to talk about these kind of books. You want to look forward to seeing more content about similar subjects, please subscribe. And that is all for now. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and book-filled day and year.